show. I'm Victoria Turner, and this is Powerful People of San Diego, where we interview people who are doing good in our community. For your viewing pleasure today, we have Miss Krista Powers, who's with the Mount Helix Park Foundation.
Yes, yeah.
Welcome to the show, and you're brand new in this job.
I am new. I was on the board for about a year. I grew up in the area and knew some of the other people, and they invited me to be on the board, and then talked me into interviewing for the executive director position, and here I am. So.
Well, you know, Mount Helix is really unique and special. Let's talk about what makes it unique and a little bit about the history of Mount Helix.
Yeah, I would say it's one of the most incredible places in the United States, definitely.
And why is that?
Yeah, okay, so just to go back, I could talk forever about it. But yeah, so basically back in, it was a gathering place in the early 1900s. There was this movement that as people throughout the United States, especially on the East Coast, were starting to move to cities, and that was kind of the trend, there were artists and some other people that really just didn't want to do that. And so they went west, and a lot of kind of wealthier families and whatnot from the East Coast that wanted this more bohemian artist colony. And so a couple of people came out to San Diego, which was beautiful and incredible, and they really started this. There were a couple guys that were pretty smart with the marketing and the business savviness, and they got the land and started really promoting it as an artist colony to come out and live in the area of that Grossmont, Mount Helix area. And the Fletcher family was very involved. A gentleman with the last name of Gross was very involved. And then our park came in with Colonel Fletcher was kind enough to actually donate the land for our park, about 6-7 acres. And the Yawkey and White family, their mother had just loved coming up to Mount Helix Park. And a little bit, to backtrack just a little bit, in 1917, they started doing an unofficial Easter service because there was already an Easter service more in the city of La Mesa. But the advertising club back then decided to do one on Mount Helix, kind of as in competition. And then I believe it was the next year that the city didn't quite have the funds to put it on, but they still put it on again on Mount Helix. And the mother, she loved to come up for Easter sunrise service, but she always said, I wish that there was a better place to sit.
Because at that time it was just totally rural.
It was just basically on top of, we're one of the highest peaks in San Diego County at 1,300 feet.
Did not know that.
And yeah, so it's just been a great gathering place, and there's all kinds of fun pictures from back in the day. And it was kind of a natural bowl shape already on top of this hill. And another interesting thing is that some of the mountains around there are actually volcanic mountains.
Like Dictionary Hill?
Yes, like Dictionary Hill, and then the one they call, I think, 825 or something like that, because that's the exact elevation of it. But ours is actually a granite mountain. And so anyways, they started doing these Easter services. And when she passed away, the children built this 35-foot memorial cross to her and brought in and made a whole natural stone amphitheater.
It's gorgeous.
And just, it's incredible.
That was brought in by hand, all of that, and posted all by hand.
Yep, and the whole historic rock wall road, all the way up to the top of Mount Helix. It kind of goes, there's many theories of why it's called Mount Helix, and some is because the helix snail, and it kind of goes around to the top. And so in the real official launch of Mount Helix Park was with the 1925 Easter service, Easter sunrise service. So we have these incredible pictures of, you just see people in their Sunday best, probably 2,000 people, back in 1925 in their Sunday best at the top of the mountain, just enjoying the first official, with the cross build and everything, service at Mount Helix Park. And it's actually within our trust that we do have to conduct that sunrise service every single year, and we get 1,500 plus people every year, which is really neat, but we can go into that later. But just to continue on a little bit with the history of it. So then the family thought that they were really doing a wonderful thing. They donated the park to the county.
Bless their heart. So it has a long legacy.
Yes. So the only problem is that the park kind of became an afterthought with the county, because they only have so much money in the funding, and so it went into a little bit of disrepair, and there were some issues with some crime and just some things like that. And then when in the 90s there was a big push for the separation of church and state, and so the fact that we had this memorial cross also made it another problem. So basically to save the park, Bob Ball and a couple of other founding members.
These are all local residents.
Local residents, yeah. They got together and basically raised the money and put together a whole trust and went in front of the judge and did everything like I's dotted, T's crossed, and bought the land back from the county and established the Mount Helix Park Foundation.
Which is what runs it today.
Yes. So in 1999 was when the foundation was actually official. And so for 20 years now, the Mount Helix Park Foundation has been running the park. And we did everything from we installed security gates, so the park now closes a half an hour after sunset, which is very important with our park. And we have a security company come through and make sure it's all cleared out. And so it's safe because we have a lot of local homes and residents and families and things like that enjoy our park and live in the area. So yeah, we're 20 years in now. And we've done all types of things like restore the amphitheater. I mentioned the gates.
You bought more land?
Yeah, yep. We have a bit more land now. We also have the land that there's a fire station right at the base.
I didn't know.
Yeah, and that's actually part of our park from the trust. That was actually and so the fire station is actually on Mount Helix Park Foundation's land.
Wow.
And then we utilize there's two dirt parking lots there, and so a lot of people will come to the park, they'll park in those dirt lots, and then they'll walk up the mountain. It's about a 10-minute walk. But
great exercise.
Yeah, it's great exercise. And everybody brings their dogs and kids. And
sure. But there is a space at the top for people who are in wheelchairs. They can park up there and go into the amphitheater.
Yes,
so that's really nice. Yeah. And in addition to that, you have regular speeches and educational programs. Talk to me about those. You had Jim Messerbach and...
Yes, we did. We just had our Gardening for Pollinators lecture.
Yes, and here I have my little flyer.
Yeah.
Gardens for Pollinators. Yes.
So it's part of what our foundation does. Not only do we have to do the Easter service every single year, which is in the trust, but we also do a wonderful Christmas event. And this year we're going to be doing a bit more, if anyone's ever been to the European Christmas markets.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so we're going to have some craft people, local artisans, things like that, and start it a little bit earlier because traditionally it's always been kind of a caroling Christmas program, but now we're going to not only have like the sing-along, but we'll also open a little bit earlier and have the Christmas markets, and that's a free event for the community. Yeah, which is why, so we're a nonprofit private park, which means that we actually can't receive any government funding at all. So we are very, very blessed to have incredible donors and volunteers and members of our park. And that's what keeps the gates open. That's what allows us to do this free community programming so that everybody can come, right? All walks of life and whatnot. So we have Christmas and we have Easter and we have a Halloween harvest festival that a bunch of families come to, and we have a live band and face painting and balloon artists. And all kinds of stuff. And then we do an astronomy night with the San Diego Astronomy Association. There's only usually one night out of the year that we actually turn the light off on the cross, and it's the night that we have the astronomy. Yeah, we did have a members only event this year that we did for the lunar eclipse, which was really neat too, because we kind of need to. Our membership started just $35 a year, but we want to take care of the people who donate to our park and keep the doors open. So that's why we'll do a few private events for our members just to say thank you.
Sure.
And then we do have a fall and spring lecture, and a couple other. We have some weddings, some other private events, and
the art in the park.
Well, yeah, the Heart of Mount Helix. We can definitely go into that. I mean, that's known as the Party on the Hill. Like,
Party on the Hill.
Everybody in East County knows about that, and I mean, we're starting to get people from all around come to our Food, Wine, and Art Festival.
So it's every June.
So it's the second Saturday of every August.
Of every August, okay.
Yeah, so this year it's August 10th, but yeah, second Saturday of every single August, and it's basically East County's premier Food, Wine, and Art Festival. And so it starts at roughly 5 p.m., and we have several different bands playing throughout the park. We have different artisans. We have everything from people that are painting live to woodworkers and metal workers. We have craft breweries. We have distilleries. and lots of great restaurants. Yeah, and Brigantine, Anthony's. So yeah, and then several other ones from East County are heavily involved. We have a partnership with the Old Town Trolley on all of our events, so it's kind of fun too.
So they bring people up the hill?
Yeah, so because we have very limited parking at the top. So it does cost us a lot of money to put on these free events.
Sure.
And so the people park at Grossmont High School and some park at the fire station, but there's limited parking there as well. So it's mostly Grossmont High School. And then Old Town Trolley, they get to ride the green and orange trolleys, which is really fun, right? Who
Part of the
love
fun.
that.
Yes.
And come up the hill, and and it's very, very special. But yeah, to touch on a little bit of where you and your husband were actually just there.
Yes.
Last Saturday, we just had our gardening for pollinators.
Yes. And you are putting more and more native plants up on Mount Helix. Let's talk about that.
So part of what we've done as a foundation, and we are the board members, the volunteers, like the people who get this stuff. Like we have native plant expert on our board, Ed Piffard, who actually will be even on a panel at the Del Mar Fair coming this Saturday. But we're very lucky to have him on our board because he really knows a lot about what we need to plant. And just from spending my whole life as part of Mount Helix and growing up on the mountain and things like that, just watching the transition from since the foundation has started governing like the park under the trust, we've basically been taking out those invasive weeds, taking out a lot of the things that weren't naturally there before, and planting for our native plants.
Which brings
pollinators. So it's a very interesting thing because I think having children will really change your life too, because had you asked me 10 years ago, would I be out gardening and and knowing all about native plants and pollinators and caring so much about bees and spiders and everything else, I would have been like, what?
Oh, yuck,
And so then since I just started recently on March 1st as the executive director, and I can't even believe the stuff that I've learned. I've attended a couple of our San Diego Native Plant Society meetings, which is an incredible wealth of information. And then you just did a wonderful thing with Casa de Oro and got the community together to come volunteer and plant the native plant garden there. And
some of the native plants on there are bringing in animals and, for example, butterflies, which are a particular type of butterfly is very rare, but because it's a hilltopper, it's on Mount Helix with the plants that you actually have.
Yeah, so I like I said, I never understood how important native plants are. And I myself, even in my own yard, I'm transitioning over to all native plants. And it's interesting because for a while we had very much the language out there that everybody should plant water-wise plants.
Right.
But the problem is that so many people's yards turned into these different plants from New Zealand and Africa, and the problem with that is that it doesn't support our local bees, our local butterflies,
birds.
Yeah, birds. I mean, everything. It's incredible, like how the whole ecosystem goes together, and it's even like it's the network under the soil as well. It's this fungi like network that gets destroyed when non-native plants are there, and will break apart that whole ecosystem. And it's as serious as there's this butterfly, the Hermes copper butterfly, that used to be abundant in San Diego, and then because that spiny redberry bush, it just isn't around as much, and people have like trampled native plants, and now we have all this invasive stuff. I mean, that butterfly is like, I think it's even on the endangered species, or just about to be. So we're even like trying to look at a vision plan with the park, because we have the plants and it will only lay its eggs on that. So if that's the thing. So we have all these different butterfly species, bees, all these different little critters that will only live with one plant. And if that plant's not there, they're gone. They go bye-bye.
Forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
So, it's our hope that we might even work with the San Diego Zoo. We're not sure exactly how that path is going to look, but it's our hope that we can maybe reintroduce that butterfly, which will be, a big event for everybody and so special. But I've just noticed just in the transition of over the years coming to the mountain that there used to not be that much wildlife up there. You'd see a little, the birds
and not much native plants either.
Yeah, and the crows, right. And, and then now it's like, I feel like Snow White when I walk through the park, basically, because it's like I'll walk out my office door and within 5 minutes see 5 different species of butterflies.
Wow.
And it's
that's
just
because more native plants are being planted on an ongoing basis throughout the area. And the more native plants and less invasive species you have, the more butterflies and local fauna.
Yeah, so one of the great programs that we have too, again with our volunteers, is this Adopt-a-Plot program.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So how do you determine what plot they get?
Yeah, so Peggy Junker, our assistant executive director, she's been with the park for 8 years, and she basically mapped out all the whole
mountain. Wow.
Yeah, a mountain of these plots that people can adopt, and it's free for them to do it. And we provide seeds, plants, education on how to take care of that little plot. And so a lot of people, it's just good. There's studies that prove like getting in the dirt actually, help you in so many different ways. It's very healthy, And so we just ask that they kind of, we tell them what weeds we need to pull, what invasives we need to pull, so they kind of just are good custodians of their little plot.
Isn't that great?
Because of that, our park is now like, boom. I mean, we're in a super bloom right now. That's just quite incredible. And we have the Yaqui Trail that a lot of people don't even know this because it is a newer trail that we created. And it just kind of walks around the mountain. It's very easy to navigate and go along. And it's not quite stroller friendly, but it's still pretty easy to get around it. And the views
that was named after Mary Yaqui, the lady who's
the family.
The family who did that. And you see all kinds of native plants up there. Like, for example, we've got the blue-eyed grasses. What is this one again?
The ceanothus.
Ceanothus with the beautiful blue flowers.
And then we have the deerweed.
Deerweed.
Yeah,
so
those are all in bloom at the park right now.
And these are things that people can put in their own homes.
Yes. So that's a whole nother thing, right? Because now I'm realizing, I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to like tell everybody about this,
to do this,
right?
So my hot button is to have a pollinator corridor from Dictionary Hill to Mount Helix. So if everybody between those hills planted this in their backyard, we would generate so much more for our native plants.
Yeah, and I mean, the other beautiful thing about native plants that people don't even realize is that they're naturally water-wise,
That's very true.
So, if you have the right plants in your yard, you actually are already fine.
And they're gorgeous. They're just spectacular. When you walk down the Yaqui Trail, you can see gorgeous sections of it just in total bloom. And I mean, who wouldn't want that in their yard?
Yeah, and one of the other hard things that I think we really need to do better at educating everyone, and I mean, I'm literally just like, I'm in awe of all that I've learned recently, but our local nurseries and whatnot, unfortunately, don't usually carry native plants, which is really
because
sad.
People haven't been asking
because
for
people
them.
haven't asked for them, right? So it's just like if you go to a bar and you ask for your favorite beer and they don't have it, eventually they'll have it if enough people ask for it, right?
So that's what we want to tell people. Go to Anderson's and your local nurseries and ask for native plants. You can go online to the Mount Helix Foundation and they have a list of native plants that are good for pollinators.
Right. So this guide is even available at mounthelixpark.org.
Really?
And one of the great things, I believe this is from the Native Plant Society that put this out, but one of the beautiful things is that it even has a schedule that will tell you if you want to always have something in bloom in your yard, because native plants, they go through the cycles. They go dormant, then they'll come back, and then sometimes you look at the dirt and it doesn't look like anything's living, and then all of a sudden it will spring up.
Poops up. So,
so it's pretty wild.
And so if you're a clever planter, you can have the dormant ones next to the blooming ones, and it cycles through your entire yard.
Yep.
Which is, that's what a good gardener does.
Yeah, so, I really feel like it's kind of almost our job, too, at the park to really get the word out, because to create that pollinator corridor, too, because it's not just like one spot here and one spot there. We got to connect them so that it's connected for the wildlife.
Right, because it's too far to walk.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm hoping that everybody, in our East County area, like transitions their yard to native plants. That'd be wonderful.
That'd be fantastic, and we need to have more of those people. And then, in order to do that, they can come up to Mount Helix and see what looks gorgeous up there.
Yes, and we're happy. Like, stop by the office, shoot us an email. We're happy to walk around with you. Like I said, we also have Ed Piffard on our board, who literally consults on people's yards of what to plant, where to plant, and things like that. Recon Nursery, that is down south a little bit. They carry all the native plants. That's where we get all of our native plants.
That's where I got mine from.
Yeah. I'll be going there actually in the morning.
That's where these came from. So
I have to go there in the morning because we have some more planning to do in the park. So we have a bunch of volunteers coming the first Saturday of every month. We do these volunteer kind of garden party type of habitat restoration thing. Yeah.
So is that where you go in and pull out things that don't belong there?
We do. We pull. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I've got my narcissus over there.
Yep.
Nasturtiums, rather. So I have just discovered that nasturtiums are not a native plant, and I am so upset about this.
Yes.
So tell me why. What's the problem with nasturtiums? As gorgeous as they are.
Yeah. So this was a really interesting experience of mine. So we have this wonderful volunteer, Kathy, that comes every Friday and helps us remove graffiti in the park, and she loves these. And someone had come along on their plant, and a bunch of these were in the trash. And so right away she came back to me and she said, "Why are the nasturtiums in the trash?" And she was just so upset because she loves them. And so at that point in time, I'm like, that's a really good question. Let me ask our plant experts, right? And so I shot out a couple text messages, and what I found out was, oh, those are bad. We want those pulled. That's a good thing. Okay, so then I said, well why? I need more because poor Kathy was still so upset. And so I basically finally got the feedback that what it is that they secrete, because they're used in edible food a lot, and people love them. And to Kathy's point, she's like, it's edible. How could it be bad? But what it is that it releases this pepper oil down into the dirt and kills the fungus, and so then our native plants actually can't thrive.
Right.
One of our other huge problems that Jim was saying even on Saturday, right, is that there was a huge push to put in feather grass or fountain grass.
Right,
so so you see
it looks
those,
like feathers.
Yeah, you see it everywhere throughout San Diego and homes, and even in the park we have it down at the bottoms. So that's another really invasive. And and then the mustard with the yellow, and I can't even get over now that I know what it is. It's like I was at my friend's house in Encinitas. I'm like, oh, let me go pull your mustard before it goes to seed. We have to get rid of this stuff.
Please. And it pops up all the time because those little mustards, there's hundreds of thousands on every plant.
Yeah.
Black mustard seeds.
Yeah.
Those are those,
and they have the little yellow at the top, and there's just fields of it. And so
you're never going to get rid of all of that.
I know
it's forever.
Well, it's my understanding that basically these invasives, their job is to occupy space. So if we don't have native plants growing in that space, then they will definitely come in and occupy that.
Right. But once you pull it up, if you put a native plant in that space, it's less likely it'll have the resources to grow there again.
Right. So at our park, we've had people that have adopted their plot and just really made sure, it takes a season or two to really get that mustard out because it seeds so easily.
Right.
And so in those plots that have really been diligently taken care of, we don't see any mustard anymore.
Really?
Any mustard, because it's full. It's full of all the native stuff, and so they don't have any space that they need to go and occupy.
What a success story.
Yeah.
What a fantastic success story. So we just need everybody to adopt a plot.
Yeah.
That works for me.
Or do it in your own yard. Adopt your own yard. And now I've noticed that there's all these different resources. I mean, the San Diego Natural History Museum. There's a guy up in LA that does the Wild Yards Project. And he kind of is very similar to our story. We're a little bit older parents with really young kids, and we're like, wait, we want our children to still have this. We don't want our children to have all concrete. We want our children to have butterflies and all these things. And so, coming from corporate America, he came from being a filmmaker. And just all of a sudden now we're in the dirt and we're gardening and we're telling everybody why they need to plant native plants. You know, not our backgrounds at all, but it's very actually easy to do once you get over that first little. I think it's a little intimidating at first.
Sure.
But once you start, and there's books, and the Native Plant Society of San Diego, they welcome everybody to their meetings, and there's lots of people that are just happy to just spread the word for free and tell you what you need to plant and help you out, and everybody can do it is what I'm learning. Whether you have just a small little area in your backyard of dirt, or you can do it anywhere. You can do it next to a freeway. You can do it out. You don't need a lot of land to do it.
Just a little bit. Yeah. So we are here today with the one and only Krista Powers, the executive director of the Mount Helix Park Foundation, who is talking to us about what it takes to create a treasure like Mount Helix and the native plants that we're trying to put back into the community, and the many things that you guys do up there, the activities, the involvement with the local artists, the bohemians.
We do Eagle Scout projects, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
That's amazing. So much fun. So much fun. So let's talk really quickly, and then I want you to give your educational speech about if I want to plant these things in my yard. I mean, these are gorgeous here, but sometimes out in the byways that you see stuff along the side of the freeway, and those aren't really native plants. Those are ugly little scrappy things that we really don't want. But if I put stuff like this in my yard, This is really native plants, not that ugly stuff.
I would say, do remember though that they do go through cycles, you know, and that's where things like this are good because sometimes if you plant all of the stuff that blooms exactly at the same time, then it's probably all going to go dormant at the same time.
Then it's going to look like the freeway.
Yeah, and let's put it this way. I mean, our park right now is in its super bloom, but come like the Heart, the Food and Wine Festival, it's not quite as vibrant, and you'll notice a little bit more like brown, but that's natural because that plant is just doing a little bit of sleeping, you know, during the hottest part of our summer, and then it wakes back up again.
Right. And it's critical to keep the crust involved. And people don't really realize how critical that crust is. It's involved with microbiomes and
right. So that's the other thing. If you're getting soil brought into your yard, learn a lot about that soil
before
because
you get
you might accidentally bring in all the wrong stuff. You might also have some chemicals in it. Like, unfortunately, it's very hard to also find good soil. So that's another whole part of it too.
Oh my gosh.
I know, we've destroyed the earth, but you know, we're bringing it back.
Little Mount Helix by Mount Helix. In fact, isn't Mount Helix the only natural stone auditorium that we have on the West Coast, really?
I think that it is, and I've been trying to dig into historians to find out a little bit more, but I know that it's definitely, it's one of the very few, if not even possibly the only in the United States. We've been trying to dig into that a bit.
Well, we're going to say that.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 minutes remaining. What would you like to do to talk to the general public, invite them up to Mount Helix and tell them something educational? Here you go.
Okay. Hi there. So please come join us up at Mount Helix Park. We're in East County, San Diego. We're located about 1,300 feet up in the air. We have a wonderful nature trail to walk along. Right now we're in a bit of a super bloom that's fun to come and look at. We've got 360-degree views. And more importantly, too, if you feel that whether you have a group of kids that want to come and learn more about nature, if you'd like to come and donate your own time, we're always looking for people to help us with the native plant restoration, with fundraising, marketing, with our events. We have a beautiful Christmas caroling event, Easter, Halloween, family, Harvest Festival. We have our major event, which is the East County's premier food, wine, and art festival that happens on the second Saturday every August. So please come and join us at the park, and we love our volunteers. We love the people that support our park, and stop by the office for some coffee.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm going to come right over. So in the last 30 seconds, if I come to volunteer, what can I do?
Oh gosh, okay, so I mean, we have basically unlimited stuff. We need people who are good at construction because we have little projects that, you know, happen that we could really use like help with. We need people that are willing to adopt a plot. We need people that are willing to help at events with parking, with registration, with, I mean, just even the experience, you know, with setup, breakdown. Yeah, if you just want to come get involved with the community, we have something for you.
You've got something for everybody.
We really do. We really do. People don't understand. We look like just this beautiful, incredible, like, park, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes with it. And we have morning yoga every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. from 9 to 10. So I mean, that's a beautiful thing, right?
That's a
and
beautiful
people come and do fitness, and they run the stairs, they bike up the mountain, run the mountain. Yeah.
So all of you come to Mount Helix, run up the mountain. Krista Powers, Mount Helix Foundation Park. Thanks so much for being with us. I'll be at the park tomorrow.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
That's been fun.